Welcome to another episode of Alpha Intuition Podcast, where we're going to empower you guys to become the CEO of your lives. I'm your host, Keisha Blair, number one life balancing coach, and joining me is my returning co-host, the beautiful and insightful mind wellness coach, Essence Yarbrough. What's up, Essence?
Hello, Keisha. Glad to be back. How you doing?
Oh, doing good, doing good. All right. I just want to remind our viewers that you guys already know that, last week we talked about switching lanes and we're going to start doing some different things. So we are no longer cracking the crazy girl code because me and Essence, we all cracked out. Um, but what we are going to do is make sure that we give you a lot of practical and insightful tips to help you to navigate through the rest of your life in the corporate space and then also in your own personal journey. So today, what we're going to do is I am going to be interviewing my special guest. And today, my special guest is Essence Yarbrough. All right, let's give it up for Essence. I wish I had me a little mixer so I can go ahead and start clapping, right? All right, I'm going to tell you guys just a few things that you may not even know about Miss Essence Yarbrough. So, Essence Yarbrough is a renowned mind wellness coach and also the author of the inspirational book, Wisdom in Red. Yes, she is a whole author, y'all. She done wrote a whole book. Y'all see how thick this book is? I mean, this book is like, I don't even know how many pages it got, even though I had it on my shelf, almost 241 pages. This is a nice book. She put a lot of thought and mindfulness into this book. But with the deep passion for empowering individuals through spiritual and emotional growth, Essence integrates her expertise in mindfulness and personal development into her coaching. Her book reflects her commitment to the transformative power of prayer and its ability to guide and uplift women through life's challenges. Essence's approach combines practical wisdom with profound spiritual insights, offering readers a roadmap to harnessing the strength and serenity found in prayer. Her work resonates with those seeking to deepen their connection with themselves and their spiritual journey. All right, y'all. So that's a whole bunch of stuff I know I just read. So we're going to get right into it. And I'm going to let you guys try to understand and see why I asked Essence to be my co-host on this show, because she is so smart, so beautiful, and so educated. And we about to jump right into it.
Girl, you just saying the most. Thank you. Love you. And ditto, right back at you, woman. Heck, gosh, you mentor me in many areas of my life. So I'm
Ooh,
grateful. You
yes.
give it right back. I love it.
Look, and I don't know about y'all, but I'm still on my journey to writing a book, and she already writing her second book. And I actually have purchased this book. And just before I forget, so this book is actually available on Amazon.com. So make sure you go to Amazon, and I'm gonna put it up so y'all can see it. I know it's so funny, but it's called Wisdom in Red. Wisdom in Red. Y'all
Mhm.
gotta learn how to spell. If not, just go ahead and sound it out. But it is on Amazon. I'm gonna try to put the link in the comments. So you guys can go to her link and purchase her book as we talk about this today. All right, so Essence, why don't you just tell me a little bit about you and also what inspired you to write the book Wisdom in Red?
So it's Wisdom in Red, the words of Jesus. I was at this point where I was really dealing with a lot of mental ailment. I was newly divorced, or actually in the process of divorce. And there were just it was just a lot going on in my life. And I was really learning how to become a single mother again. And one of the things that gave me solace, that gave me peace, that really gave me some direction and gave me wisdom, like natural wisdom, it was the Bible. So I was just like, you know what? I don't feel like reading the Bible. It's like, I don't feel like reading all of this. What does Jesus say in this time of my life? And what had happened was that there was a time a while back when I was actually, it was a while back. I had an upper room experience where I went through a lot back then when I was much younger. And that upper room experience took me to a place where I had to study the Bible, but I didn't know what was in it. I didn't know really anything about it. I just knew it was about this guy named Jesus for the most part. But what did he say? And when I opened it up, I realized, and that's the whole journey I talk about in the book. But when I came across this Bible, I said, you know what, let me just read the words in red. Those are Jesus's words. Let me just read that. When I read that, it changed my life forever. Ever
Mm,
since then, so from the age of 20, I'm in my 40s now. Ever since then, those words have literally directed me, pulled me out of mental ailment, everything. And so, fast forward to when I was going through this traumatizing time, those words hit me again. And I said, you know what? I need something that just keeps this compiled for me. I wrote it for me. I wasn't even writing it for everybody else at the time. I was just thinking, gosh, I just need this compiled. And as I was compiling these things and compiling my story together, and just the things that the scriptures brought me to that I wrote about, I said, you know what? Yeah, other people do need this. If I need this tool, others can use it. And I had, friends that really saw the same thing and was like, yeah, you need to put that out. And so that's how Wisdom in Red came about. So, and it's been a blessing ever since. I still refer to it myself. I'm showing you the nice, neat one because I got another one that's just all up. And I am putting out a new edition. I'll be putting out a second edition probably next year, where it's like a coffee table edition where it'd be nice and pretty and matte and all of this. It's gonna be dope. So people are
Nice.
really loving it out. Yeah. Hopefully read it though, not just the coffee table.
Exactly. So let me ask you, so when you wrote the book, how long did it take you to think of the concept, and how long did it actually take you to write the book before it even went to production?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Keisha, because it was sort of like it just sort of happened. And then so when I sat down, it took a total of only about 3 months.
Wow.
Whereas but with this, and because it's mostly mental,
Mm-hmm.
it's going through things that you are talking about where you're like, okay, how do I compile this to where it's therapeutic for somebody else, to where other people can understand the minutia out of my head and how the word impacted me so much. But this next book, the Sunny Day Mentality that I have coming up, oh my gosh, that right there took me 5 years to write.
Mm,
So, but because I was immediately in the word at that time, I already had the inspiration to say, yep, because this is where I'm at right now. Boom. And I need this from Christ. So that is why it just came out in 3 months, really. I guess nowadays that's a long time compared to how some people are just cracking out books left and right. But
mm.
yeah, 3 months for me to get that book for
Well,
about
but
that
you
amount of
want to
time.
put out a good quality product and not just put out something that, you can just find by Googling it yourself. These are actually your thoughts. You can't Google your thoughts. You know what I mean? So this is
Yeah,
something
you
you
can.
spend a lot of time being intentional about. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one thing that I can appreciate about writing and reading books now. It's the fact that, hey, it's my own lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, people can judge whatever they want to judge, whether it's the words of Jesus. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk. I get all of that. But regardless as to whether or not people believe in Jesus or not, this book just gave me wisdom. It gave me practical
Mm-hmm.
wisdom. And it just so happened that I connected further with the Lord in the process of this. And so I could only hope that people get whatever they get out of it that blesses them, where God blesses them. They grow closer to the Lord. They grow closer in prayer. You know what I mean? Where the word can just take
Yes,
them there, So yeah.
absolutely. 100%. No, I understand that. We all had that first part of our journey when we came to Christ. Well, people who are believers, to when they came to Christ,
Yeah.
to where they know just that profound moment to where it's something just clicked for you and you decided that you wanted to just refine your walk and you wanted to live your
Yes.
life differently,
Yes.
whatever
Yes.
that may
And I
be.
don't know if you yes, I don't know if you remember a long time ago when I came back to Memphis and you were just so sweet to me, Keisha, because I was in my hey Jesus everything mode. And you were like, girl, yeah, let's sit down and do a study, and you were just so supportive. And I never forgot that, Keisha. Never
Oh,
forgot
I
that,
don't
girl. Thank
remember because I'm 50, girl, but thank you. I appreciate that. But
you. I remember. I remember that. Yes, yes. Hmm.
yeah,
So
when you have
yeah, I
people, that's the last thing a person who's new to Christ and a new believer needs is somebody to try to shun them or shut them down when they have a thirst for the word. So
yes,
I'm never
and
gonna
that
be that
yeah,
person.
and I yeah, thank you. And what's really powerful is that a part of being supportive of people is that you are really allowing people to even sit back and make mistakes. You know what I mean? Even if you may not believe everything that they believe, it's like, you know what? This is that person's journey, and I'm not saying you didn't, agree with what I was saying or nothing like that. You never you and other people and myself included, what I learned with this book is just how important it is for us to be able to go through life and having books like this that give us the grace and a love that says, you know what, I've made some mistakes. hey, I'm still learning here. I'm still trying to grow. These are tools that we need. And so I'm between human support, book support, all of that, it just helps us to grow. To grow. It's really about a growth mindset and just enriching your spirit and growing to me in Christ, growing in the Lord to where I'm at a place where I can apply things to my life, you know? So that's what it is.
I heard somebody say one time, I don't remember how old I was, but I heard someone say that church is for sinners. And some people say that and they get offended, but it's like, think about it, because if we were all saved and we were all righteous, we would have no need to go to church and try to get spiritually cleansed. So yes, church is a place for sinners.
Yes,
A
it
whole bunch
is
of them in
like,
there, a whole bunch inside and out. You know what I mean?
well, right. And here's the thing, people have this misconception that once you give your life over to Christ, once you have dedicated yourself, got baptized, whatever you see yourself doing, you going to church, right? What it is that what I found, the same thing we find in the world, we're going to find it in the church. We're going to find the same problems. We're going to find mental health out the church and in the church. We're going to find some issues, violence in the church and out the church. All of these things are addressed, but how they are addressed is what we get to, really dig into, and how that draws us closer to the Father. The only difference is that we fall and we got grace and get back up. A righteous man falls 7 times and gets back up. That's the
That's
word.
right.
That's what makes him righteous. It's like, yep, he gonna keep falling. And he said all of us fall short of the glory of God. He's like, I ain't come to you. I ain't calling you because you got all the glory. Let me handle that. I just want you. Let me care for you. Let me teach you. Let me grow you. I'm an eternal Father. So I just let him do that with my
Absolutely.
all this mistake making self. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we'll read this question. It says here, in Wisdom in Red, you emphasize the importance of prayer in navigating life's challenges. So can you share a personal experience where prayer played a crucial role in your life?
So many. I used to cry out all the time, Lord, change my default. Change my default. Because my default reactions, responses, mental health, it was not healthy. It was counterproductive for my life. And I was tired of it. And I was just like, Lord, change my default. And when I said that, what's funny, I did not know the science behind what I was asking, because in science, neuroscience, there is a thing called the default mode network, right? And this is where basically all your thoughts are just going and going. And that's from the conscious, basically. That's just what's coming out automatically. Those are your automatic thoughts, right? Automatically what you go to. So I was like, Lord, just change that. And I remember some time later, he said to me, I heard this voice, this just clear, precious, sweet, gentle male voice. In my head, it was male. I guess it could have been mine, but in my head, in my heart, it's a male. And he said, change your subconscious. No, he said, change your subconscious thoughts through your conscious actions. I said, what?
Wait a minute.
I didn't know what
that
that
again. Repeat that
Hold
again.
on, but what you just said. Hold on. Your reaction. Repeat that again. That's how I was. I said, huh? And I heard it again. Change your subconscious thoughts through your conscious actions. Ooh, anybody who is in neuroscience, especially now that I know
change your subconscious thoughts to your conscious reactions.
Change your subconscious mind through your conscious actions. Change your subconscious mind through your conscious actions. So in other words, your subconscious thoughts those are the automatic things that come out. Yeah, we can control what we're conscious of, right? As far as like, oh, I'm thinking this right now, I'm thinking that. But sometimes all of a sudden you ever wake up and it's like, oh, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed and my thoughts are negative. Everything is just, I feel sad and I don't know why. Well, sometimes it's those subconscious thoughts, on top of our other habits that we have. But it'll have us automatically reacting negatively or just counterproductively, right? And in frustration, things like that. And we don't test it. We never test it. We just go along with those feelings and emotions. I'm kind of dipping into my next book, but this is really what it was.
Yeah.
I don't want to dip.
What I'm hearing you say basically is that you have to be mindful of what you put in, because subconsciously it's going to come back out.
Exactly. And the way that you figure out what you're putting in is only by what you're actually conscious of.
Because you
So
have
the
control
thing,
over that, like you just said, you have control over what you put in your body, but you don't have control over
yeah,
basically what comes out, because that's your subconscious. So you have to be mindful of what you put
yeah,
in. If you want good things to come out, you got to put good things in.
yes. And here's the thing, it's not just what we think that our conscious thoughts that we put back in. Our brain responds to action. So that's what he was telling me. So he was answering my prayer when, I mean, so specifically and scientifically,
Mhm.
when he said, change your subconscious mind through your conscious actions, because actions actually begin to shift the thought process. Your thoughts are like, oh, I just want to lay in bed all day. I just want to lay in bed all day. I just want to soak. I feel so horrible. Blah, 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 blah. But then your actions, you just say, no, let me get up. This is what I'm doing, right? I'm going to go and sit outside for 20 minutes. I'm going to go downstairs and cook something to eat, or make me a smoothie real quick. And that right there, so, okay, now I'm going to open my blinds. So that prayer, he tells me, to go and do these things. And
Mhm.
so I have every belief in the world and beyond that being in this word, communing with this, is what took me to the place where when I was in my low moments, those words were coming back to me. Your
Mhm.
subconscious will play back. So, like you were saying, put those good things in you and good will come out. And
Mhm.
that is what I had to invest more into myself with. Because in the world, we invest in so many things into ourselves, but then we also have to invest this word into our hearts. We have to sow it into ourselves so that we can reap it in my darkest moments. That's what started to begin to reap was words of wisdom. So that's
Mhm.
why the book
Nice.
Red comes about.
All right. So
And
let
I'm
me
ever so grateful.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. So I'm going to ask you this question because I'm sure that being an author, you're writing another book, um, just trying to balance your personal life and professional life, your mind wellness coaching, your business, trying to be an author. So let's talk about what strategies you use just to maintain balance in your life. Oh, and not to mention you're a
So
mother of two beautiful children, so trying to be a
yeah,
mother, trying to be an author, be a mind wellness
yes.
coach, trying to help other people. What's something that you do just to maintain that balance in your life so you can push forward?
I'm doing one thing at a time. So my first number one prayer and priority when I had my kids, and even when I went in, even before, like when I went into marriage and then started having my kids, it was, Father, enable me to just have the focus, the strength, the wisdom to be a full-time mother, right? And I knew that that still meant I would work and all of that. I said, but let my children not miss not one mark, right? Like, allow me to be able to do that. So that took a lot of
Mhm.
sacrifice, because everybody knows you just can't have it all. People say, "Oh, you can have it all," but I'm sorry, no. The realism of it is that sometimes we can't be with our kids all the time, right? And that's just what it is. We got to work. They got to go to school. Whatever. We're just never going to be with them all the time. That's just life. Period. God knows that, so He has the grace for it, right? And He gives us wisdom to navigate through it for our lives. What it took for me was just saying, I'm going to center everything around them, and then I'll do everything out. God and my children are my nucleus, and then and myself obviously, and then I'm going to just go from there. And as long as I kept that focus, I was okay. I was good, and I was able to run my business. I was able to provide for my children. I had to run a business between my then diagnosis and then having little kids. I had to run a business
Mhm.
because it gave me the freedom to navigate with the type of schedule I needed. So going from there on a day to day to having long-term goals, it was just let me get them through school, let me keep my business organized. And I had that business for over a decade. And that business was run
Mhm.
even with me having bipolar diagnosis and everything. And so, but it was the focus of, I just know that this is my nucleus, the word being my nucleus, the Lord, Him, my children, myself, my mental health, working on that. So to me, I allowed other things to kind of fall by the wayside so that I can prep this better, this right here better, making sure my children were okay here. and then making sure that I was keeping a foundation with the Lord through
Mm.
it all, because I knew I needed that stable foundation, point blank, period. I wouldn't have been able to do anything else. So I still work on the business aspect. Um, Now that my children are older, now I'm learning to transition into organizing business now in a different way in my life. So that is a challenge. That's why I love you as one of my mentors. And I'm serious, girl. Like, as far as that corporate organization, you got that down, and I just love that. And that's why I love that you're doing this podcast. And so I'm like, okay, I pull from these things, and that's just how I prioritize things. What are my needs? What's my goal? What's my focus? And what do I need to work on? And keeping a humble heart around that is a challenge, but I'm working on it. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. And I just stay focused on what I believe God is calling me to do. And I roll there.
That's the most important thing. We have to make sure that we're in alignment with our mission and with our goal. Um, and that ultimately we were all put here for a certain purpose. So we have to figure out what that purpose is. And sometimes people take the long route. Sometimes people take the short route. You have people who have been in their careers for 30, 40 years. And then you have somebody who keeps switching lanes every chance they get because
Mm-hmm.
they haven't figured out what their purpose is. And they're not really happy
Yes,
with doing what they're doing. So
yes,
one thing that I have found is that um, leadership, like I say, that's just my jam. I think anybody that knows me knows that. But I'm also very, very passionate about telling people about being an electrician, or I would say telling people about the skilled trades, especially young children, because I think about what if I would have known the things that I know now when I was 15, 16 years old, even though I got into the skilled trades when I was 20, and I ended up, actually my first real job was in management was when I was 18, but then I got in working at a
yeah,
video arcade. They don't even exist no more, but that
right,
started my maintenance career. Then I got into the skilled
yeah,
trades. And then even through all that, and then me finding Christ and coming, I think I was probably around, I was 15 actually. When my dad seeing me minister, I was always in the church. But when you're made to go to church as a child, it's different when you find Christ for yourself when you become an adult. So for me, I think that
right,
age
right.
was probably, oh my goodness, I'm gonna say probably maybe 27, around 27 years old. So where I felt like I actually started pouring into myself and building that relationship with Christ. And I know that one
Mhm.
of the first books that I read was by Michelle McKinney Hammond, and it was called "Get a Love Life."
Yeah.
What is it called? Get a love life,
I
find a
love
relationship with God, something like that, something like
she
that. But I've read her whole
li
series. I've read so many books by her, but she was very instrumental in the beginning stages of my spiritual journey because I remember reading her books and giving them to other people, and some of them might even get back, but it was like I'm just going to bless them with this
yeah,
because obviously it was meant for them to have. They needed it more than me, and then I went and bought another copy of whatever book I wanted to have. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, she was very, very instrumental in me,
yeah.
in my spiritual walk when I was around, say, between 27 and 30 years old.
Yes, yes. And that, can I ask you a question?
I'm supposed to be interviewing you, but
Because
go
I
ahead.
know, but I think it's important, how have you been able to balance prayer and, because you are very successful, Keisha. I don't know if people just really know that you are that woman, and
Girl.
that you have definitely given the Lord, praise. And so how have you balanced your spiritual walk with your corporate walk?
Well, for one, I just try not to think about what other people say about me and only worry about what God says about me. That can be a huge
Mm,
challenge for some people because you're worried about trying to um, focus on other people and make them happy, and you forget about the one being that you should make happy, and that's your creator.
right.
So that's what I try to focus on, and this doesn't always happen. I have to remind myself at times that okay, let me just take a step back. Let me regroup and redirect myself
Mhm,
so that I can get focused
mhm.
on where I need to be spiritually. Um, and those times will come into play when, especially in the corporate space, when you get overwhelmed and you're pouring all this time and you're foregoing going to church, you're not reading your word, you're doing all these things because you're trying to just make a dollar. So of course, you know what the word
Yeah,
says, that the love of money is the root of all evil. So, and it's not the money, because there's nothing wrong with making money, there's nothing wrong with doing well
mhm,
and being well off, but the time and energy
right.
that you put into it that takes away from you being with God, That's the root of all evil, because you start thinking about the things that you can forego to pour into a job to get you more money, and you forget all about Christ, and he's the one that got you to a position to where you actually got the job in the first place.
Yes, that is so powerful because he does say, Jesus was like, look, it's literally easier for a man to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to go to heaven.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, he ain't lying. Because what happens is that, think about it.
You start to idolize the
Here's a
money and you forget about Christ.
think about it. What's the argument? Yes, that a lot of women have right now. Well, I'm making my own money now. I don't need a husband.
Yeah, I would never say
We
that.
do that to God. But that's
So
what women say.
only,
It's
you know what,
crazy.
and I hate to say it, but that's, and I'm not gonna say, but it's the majority. I'm not gonna say only, but the majority of it is Black women. And it's like, I don't, I'm never gonna say
I
that.
hear
And I
you.
think, is it really us saying that because we believe it, or saying it because we want others to believe that we believe it? Because you don't really
Right.
believe that. I don't really believe that. I'm never gonna say I don't need a man in my life. I wouldn't even have my 4 children without men, right? Well, I could have gone to a
Right.
clinic or something, but still wouldn't have been as authentic or organic. So that's
Right.
something we need. And then I have 3 boys. My boys need men in their life. So it's like
Right.
I can't raise a boy by myself into a man. And I'm a woman that
Mhm.
understands that. I can't speak for other mothers. I can't speak for other women. But for me, yeah, that's something that I'm definitely going to make sure that I include in my children's lives, is making sure that they have their fathers around and making sure that they know God.
Yes, it's so important. And that's the thing. And because that's exactly what we do to God, though. We say, oh, I got all the money. I don't need God. I got the knowledge. I don't need God. Oh, people who believe in God are stupid. They're foolish. They just look silly. And it's like, honey, you are not aware of the wisdom in this word, And so I
The
just
wisdom
like
in red, girl. The wisdom in red. No.
yeah, it's crazy. So I feel like, at the end of the day, it's almost like a lost art nowadays to say that, to just really go into the word and really try to craft your life after these words. It's like a lost art, it seems like sometimes, because we get on our own, and we're so hyper independent. But when we get in those dark spaces, we cry out. And
Hmm.
thankfully, just because he's a merciful God, and because he is so loving, and because he does see us as his children, he's just like, you know what? You cry out, I'm answering. You know,
Yeah.
I know you belong to me. I am answering. And I have just seen that over and over again in my life. Gosh, and I make so many mistakes, and at the same time, he's just like, okay, now
Mm.
let's go on to the next, So yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this about just inspirations and influences. So, who or what has been your most significant influence in your career, and how has it shaped your approach to your mind wellness and coaching business?
This is gonna sound so cliche, but literally the Lord, because I
Mm.
was hiding who he was so much, as far as that the the mental challenges I was dealing with, that nobody really knew, and other than my mother. But then, as far as, I have a spiritual mother. I haven't talked to her in a
Mhm.
while. I'm guilty. But down in Memphis, down south, she'd take me to all the prayers. So she taught me how to cry out and pray.
Mm.
She taught me, and I got to see the results of that, in her life. I got to see the breakthroughs. She taught me how to, get a prayer through, as they say, when it comes to my life in general, just seeing women around me like yourself, having a tribe, my girl Erica, my girl Angie, like just having a tribe, Anicia, I have so many, not so many, but I have a nice handful of super strong women. Ilea, all of these women
Mhm.
that are very focused. I can go on and on with the names that are focused, and we just draw together and we strengthen each other. We teach each other, we correct each other. And, I don't like a yes tribe. I'll agree
Mhm.
with you for a while, but at the end of the day, I'm like, ooh, hold on, so we're not a yes tribe. We are agreeable people, but we want each other to grow just as much. And having that, and then my children inspiring me. My children inspiring me because if I don't get it right, oh Jesus, I'm gonna see it in my kids.
Mhm. True,
They
very
oh
true.
gosh, I don't want them, in children, that's a whole task. We know it is a whole task. And so I stay focused on strengthening myself for them, and just being somebody they can come to, but at the same time, um, just looking at them and seeing the glory of God in how he has approved of me having a legacy. So that's what keeps me going. That's what drives me. And then, honey, a lot of YouTube, a lot of classes, self work, you know what I mean? Self work, make the dream work. It's just like, you know, it's a thing. And just doing a lot of growth work all the time, constant. That's what gets me going.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And children, they're gonna be most of the time they're gonna say what they think, and
Oh,
whatever's on their mind, it's just gonna come out. And you be like, where did that even come from? But kids will be they can be brutally honest sometimes with us, right? So,
yeah, yeah,
mhm.
definitely. And I invite it because I'm like, you better get ready to get it back when
Exactly.
your time comes. So yeah, but no, it's great. We have a great relationship, but it is very challenging. And my daughter is a senior in high school this year. My son is a junior. And so they're getting a little big for their britches. So that's all I can say. That's all I can say about that. I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of them. So yeah. So that's my inspiration for that. Keisha,
Almost an empty nester, girl. Ooh, that's a beautiful time. Like, oh
it,
no, my
it,
kids are going like, mm. We just say that just so y'all
it's
can think it. Trust me. We don't want y'all to know the real. We around here turning car wheels butt naked. Trust me, we don't want y'all around here no more. We happy y'all ain't here. Come back to visit, but you will have a guest room. You will not have the same room you had when you left. You are a guest in my home.
And you know what? And they, you know what? Honestly, I mean, they could stay as long as they're being productive, right? Me and her dad's not trying to push them out, but it's also up to them. If they want to go, then you go learn. My
Yeah.
mother didn't make me stay. I was gone by 17. Just I signed a lease at 17 because they said I was about to turn 18 soon enough, and they let me move in. So I
Mm,
was gone. But I regret that I did that so soon because, gosh, I had to learn so many hard lessons.
yeah,
So yeah.
that's called life lessons.
Mhm. Right. Right. But a lot of my friends, and I have to say, a lot of my little, my white counterparts, they stayed in the house until they bought a home of their own. They just worked, stayed in the home, went to school, got married, stopped working, some of them, and then they just
Mhm.
lived a life, renting out the properties. I'm like, what? Just because they chose to stay into their early 20s, early to mid 20s, or until they got married.
Lord Jesus, no, mine lived on campus at the colleges.
Yeah.
Best place because it's almost like it's almost like an interim adult phase because you're on your own,
It
but
is.
you're really not because you're still living off your parents. You're just not in their house, so you have a little bit of freedom. But yet, when something goes down, guess who they're going to call? So that intermittent
Yeah.
phase of living in a college campus was definitely something I was intentional about doing with my children because I wanted them to
Yeah.
get that experience of being on their own.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I do, I'm just gonna put it out there. I
Hmm.
I have rules at my house and I enforce them because it's my house. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make you comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry because it's my environment.
Ooh,
So
yes.
if you
Yes.
and guess what? I mean, you can stay here. I'm not gonna put you out, but we're gonna follow my rules. So if you don't want to follow my rules, then guess what you're gonna have to go do? Go get your own. So
Well,
we're not
yeah,
making
and
it
you know
comfortable
what?
because you want to have children that grow up to be strong adults, and you can't do it by holding their hand, sugarcoating it, and not letting them fail. Because on the other side of adversity is always opportunity. So you have to go through those challenges in order to see what's on the other side to make yourself more productive in what we call life.
Yes, one of the things that I think kids don't understand is as you get older, you really fight for your peace. You really do fight for your
Yeah.
peace and you take this nonsense. And because before it's like you're just kind of learning things and you're kind of dealing with people. And then it comes to a point where you're like, hold up, no, you learned yourself and you know what you need in your home. And a lot of children, I think, as we're growing up, we don't get that. And then you get out on your own and then you learn it. And it takes a while sometimes before people get that.
What happened is you
So,
start talking
yeah,
to your parents and you start enforcing rules that were enforced on you when you were younger, and then you understand why your parents said what they said because now you do the same thing, right? Yeah.
exactly. And you, yeah, you become, especially once they have kids. Oh my
Like,
gosh.
oh, girl, I'm gonna tell you the
You
biggest
really
thing that I remember my dad and saying all the time was that he didn't like pots in his refrigerator. I remember this man woke me up in the middle of the night to go and take a pot out the refrigerator and put the food in something and to wash the pot. I was so mad. I was crying. I had to be about 14, 15 years old. But I've never forgotten that. But as an adult, what you're not going to find in my refrigerator is some pots and pans.
girl. So hold
You're
on.
not going to find them.
Keisha, but why did I see a post on TikTok, I think, where they were talking about that, and everyone in the comments, everybody Black, was just like, who knows? Who doesn't know that you're supposed to not put pots in the fridge? Like, you're supposed to use Tupperware. You're supposed to use da, 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 da. And I was rolling because I had an ex who could not stand that I would just put pots in the not in the microwave. I'll put pots in the fridge, right? If it was still a lot, not like if it was just a little bit. If it was a little bit or enough to fit in a smaller Tupperware thing, then I put it in there. But I'm like, why am I going to do that? Especially when it was just me and my kids. I'm like, I'm going to take this out again, reheat it, because I don't want to reheat it in the microwave for them. I'm going to put it right back in that pot again, and I'm going to reheat it. So I might as well keep it in the pot, and then I put it on the stove, and then I can reheat it just fine. So I'm not one of those people. I'm actually not a part of that tribe, but I get it. I do understand it. But I'm one of those people that I had to learn when you're at somebody else's house, ask them if they want Tupperware. When you say you can go and put the stuff away or you're helping, don't put pots in the fridge.
I'll tell you like this. What I just do is I just go to the dollar store and I get foil containers. That way I'm gonna cover them up with some foil. I got the bottom, put them in the refrigerator. Guess I'm throwing the whole thing away. I ain't got to even wash no dishes. They're going in the trash. I had a friend of mine right now, just to the side, a friend of mine, I buy plastic, styrofoam, plates, plastic cups. Matter of fact, I got one I was using earlier, right? I'm a plastic cup. I got plenty of plates and dishes and everything inside my cabinet, but I choose not to use them. So he was asking me one time, so you wasting money doing that. Really? I said, let's analyze this. At the time, it was still Dollar Tree was only $1. So I get 30 plates for $1. I get a set of forks, knives, and spoons, right? I can get a set of 3. That's gonna cost me $1. So that's $3. That's $4 that I've spent, and I can get me a pack of cups with 30 cups in it. So I've spent $5 and some change, right, for the entire month when it's just me, and yet I could throw my stuff away because I don't like washing dishes. So but I will, right, when they're in the kitchen. But however, if I can prevent it, then I will. So I'm like, let's analyze this. The money that you spend on a dishwashing liquid, the money that you spend on water, then you want to have hot water. And if you put bleach in your water, you got to buy some bleach. If you put them in the dishwasher, you still got to. So all the time, and then your time is valuable. So what is your time worth to where you're spending time washing these dishes? That's where I'm done throwing my stuff in trash and going on to the next day. So who's really wasting money?
Exactly. Yeah. No,
I'm going to get my next batch every weekend for the next month.
Yes. Well, just on the I'm not like when it comes to dishes, because that's my rule, like is just wash the dish as you go. Like if you ate from it, wash it if you're going to use the dish. Otherwise, use the paper plates, and if you have a glass, use that same glass all day.
Well, I'm gonna tell you like that. Well, you've been to my house where I got magic markers in there next to these plastic cups because y'all not wasting them. You only get one. Yeah, and especially when you have kids that come through different events and functions. But I'm gonna tell you this: I don't even really like to use my dishwasher because I don't feel like it gets my dishes as clean. I prefer to hand wash my dishes when I do wash them. So when I do decide to use plates or regular cups or whatever the case may be, the items that I wash or that I cook in, because I'm in the meal prepping now, so I prep my own food. Then I wash them by hand, and I use the dishwasher as a drying rack. It's like, I just prefer to wash it myself. Yeah. But we didn't got all off topic.
I don't know why but hold on. But why is it? Because they always say, why is it that Black people use the dishwasher to dry the dishes? Like they just use it as a dry rack. I don't know what that is, but it's like we rather not waste the water.
No, I don't care about the water. I want my dishes to be clean. There's so many times to where because I like to use Tupperware and things like that. You know what it does? It melts it, right? Or the hot water doesn't get it clean, and then I have to go back. So I like to let my dishes soak in bleach water. So for me,
Yes.
I just clean, I wash them myself. That's like, and I'm gonna compare that to what I've started doing as far as meal prepping, right? I cook my own food because I don't know what that dishwasher doing. I don't know what people out here doing in these restaurants. So I prefer to just, eat at my own house and I
Yeah.
wash my own dishes and yeah.
Meal preps, now that is where I agree with Tupperware. Oh my gosh, because that's perfect. Just to already have your stuff
But you
planned
still
out,
gotta
that is
wash
so
that too,
convenient.
girl. I ain't throwing that away. I'm keeping it
You
for the next time. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but still, that's I mean, that's the wisdom of the Lord right there. That's some organization for you
Okay.
and some good health.
Well,
Anyway, I know we went
we had
off,
all
but
our
that
topic.
is
No,
what
no,
I'm
no. Yeah.
saying.
So back to the so what I was going to ask you about. So when you think about like just overcoming major challenges, so can you share just like a major challenge or something that you may have faced in your career or personal life to where you overcame it, and then just like what did you learn from that experience?
So it's gonna go right back to my mental health because to me everything that's why my business mental core consulting everything goes back to your mental. That is your core, your spirit and your mindset, right? So for me, I had a bipolar diagnosis, point
Mm-hmm.
blank. And, you know, a lot of people, the people I was talking to, it was just like, no, that's just, that never goes away, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what's being said, but I can't live like this. And I wasn't able to take meds because the meds were giving me such horrible side effects. And then on top of
Mm-hmm.
that, I was going through, I was trying to go to therapy, but I'd be so depressed that I wouldn't make it. And I
Yeah.
would miss it and then it would drop me. So I was like, God, and I would just cry out. And I'm like, Lord, I cannot live my life like that. At 19, I was suicidal. And I was never suicidal again, praise God, with that
Mm-hmm.
experience, because it was amazing. That story, that's also in Wisdom and Red. I do talk about it. And
Oh,
so one of the things that, oh, wait, is it, or is that in my new book? You got to get both of them to
you gotta
find out
get
for
both of
sure.
them to figure it out.
Right? Oh gosh, but that's the whole thing. It's that I literally was able to rewire my brain. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I still have an ADHD diagnosis. Now, whatever people want to call stuff, okay, you do what you want to do. Put a name to it, fine. All I know is that you just told me that there is a list of symptoms that I am dealing with that I need to learn to navigate for my life to be able to maximize myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when it came to bipolar disorder, I was really having these high manic moments and I was having these low depressions and I was crashing so hard. I would crash for weeks, months at a time to where, people were like, Essence, maybe you should go on disability or maybe you should, just different things. Right. And at the end of the day, me taking these tools, I started working tools. I started praying more. I was listening to what I was hearing in my prayers. I started hearing the word that was telling me, let this mind be in you that is also in Christ Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing these scriptures that's telling me, therefore there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, because I would condemn myself a lot. So the word would just start coming up, bubbling up more and more. And I said, you know what? So people will call them affirmations, I guess, but this is
Yeah.
a solid word from the Lord. So I'm like, I'm taking that on, like, boom, that's it. If he said it, I'm gonna really trust it, right? And because I was like, you said it's not
Mm-hmm.
your will that I'll fall, but that I'll have downfall. It's your will that I prosper. So I had to start thinking about those things. He says, whatever's good, whatever's holy, think on these things. So I just started, oh,
Me,
bless
excuse
you. I
me.
started,
I had to put on mute.
get it out, girl. No, so I really did. I had to start listening to what I had been reading and just saying, okay, so it helped me to overcome in the sense of actually just having these quiet, still moments and listening to myself and
Mm,
saying, what do I really need right now? Like, do I want to feel like this anymore? And I'd say, no, I don't want to feel like this. You know what? I'm not going to feel like this. And I got to a point where I even have a tool that I talk about, girl, where I get violent. I'm not going to talk about it here, but in my thoughts, because there's a scripture that says, the kingdom suffers violence and the violent take by force. I said, you know what? The enemy is trying to take my mind. And I remember I had a spiritual mother who would always tell me, God just keeps showing me your mind, your mind, your
mm,
mind. Girl, keeps telling me to pray for your mind. So with prayer, the support of others, prayers from others, all of that And now I see I'm on the other side of it by following those scriptures, by listening to those small, still moments, by, listening to that voice that'll tell you something as simple as go get water right now,
Mm-hmm.
get up now. And I'm like, oh, action. Okay, boom, go do it. So now in a habit of doing that, here comes a negative thought. Oh, shoot, I don't want to think like that. I would have these violent attacks, these ruminations, these negative thoughts coming through, swirling, swirling, swirling. How was I going to combat that? Well, a tool I would take was basically to use imagery to basically have a violent scene against those thoughts. I'm not going to describe the scenes, but eventually my brain started rewiring to where I was winning the war in
Mm.
my mind. I was stopping these violent thoughts against me. I was able to stop those violent thoughts against me from ruminating and circling and coming at me like a runaway train all the time. That was putting me in these negative spaces and these horrible moods. So it got to the point where eventually one day my mind just got quiet. And
Mm.
I remember the time when I said, oh my God, I have not had any negative thinking, ruminations, depression, and it had been a minute. And I was like, oh, and I felt so at peace and quiet. Now, I'm all over the place, just period. But in my head, I was like mentally, as far as my moods, I was cool.
Mm.
I was like, oh my, like this is unheard of without medication, that's unheard of. So, anyhow,
Uh-huh.
that word got me trained, it taught me how to train my thoughts to where my brain rewired. And I didn't even know that that's what was going to happen.
Wow.
And so now I look back and I'm like, yo, oh my gosh, like God did it. He did it. He took me through baby step after baby step after baby step. And because I didn't really know the science behind it, I probably could have, like, if I had the book that I'm, writing, and if
Mm-hmm.
I'd have had this, earlier, I probably would have been through it so much faster. But it took time, and God was patient with me, and He taught me how to love myself and be patient with myself. And so
That's
I overcome it and overcame it. And I look back now and I say, wow. And people say, no, you must not have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I said, honey, no. And the people that know me, that knew me and saw me was like, mm-mm. To the point where my next psychiatrist, she said, no. She said, no, baby, you had it. She said, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's working and you do not have bipolar
yeah.
disorder
Well,
anymore. She said, you do still have.
some people don't even want to recognize when they have something like that that goes on. They just want to act like if they ignore it, it'll go away. So my mother,
Yeah.
I don't know if she was ever diagnosed, but my mother lived on the streets. She was homeless for 10 years, and everybody just said, "Oh, she's crazy. She's crazy." Well, that's a little bit different when somebody who has a mental disorder. But back in the day, nobody wanted to talk about it, especially in the Black community. Nobody wanted to talk about going to get mental health, physical therapy. I'm sorry, mental therapy. Or going to talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist to understand what was going on in the mind, because we're still researching. People are still researching all the time about what goes on with the brain. Um, so,
Yeah.
for her to experience that, I don't know what happened to her when she was younger. Like you said, what you mentioned before about what you put in is what comes out. So what
Yeah.
happened to her in her life to where it caused her to react the way that she did, or for her mind to respond the way that it did? And that's what some people don't even think about, are the triggers and the traumas that we have that come from when we're younger, because these are the things that we consciously allow to into our bodies. And sometimes when you're a child, some things enter into you which you have no control over, but you're well aware of it. And then ultimately it comes back out as bipolar disorder. It comes back out as schizophrenia. It comes back out as all these other things. Now, I'm not a clinical psychologist by far. All I'm doing is just speculating and thinking about how this affected my mother, because nobody really ever knew what was wrong with her. And she passed away
Right.
January 23rd, 2019. But she spent majority of her life just dealing with this mental disorder that I don't know if she understood it, but she dealt with it and she lived with it.
Yeah. And she actually, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like she was actually really, really cool and like was consistent, you know what I mean? And was like so good, like chill from what I remember.
We
She's
want
pretty dope. Like
that's a whole another episode talking about my mama.
that's a whole other
You
episode.
know?
Yeah,
Just like me ask you about your mama, you
but
gonna be like, nope.
considering, but I'm just saying, considering what I, saw, knowing that she had been going through some things, you know what I mean? I was just like, dang, she real chill, you know what I mean? Like
But
she ain't cutting up at the park,
that's
like,
that. Depends on what environment you're in. But I want to ask you another question. So I want
right?
to ask you about
Yeah.
talking your book just about
Mhm.
the belief in prayer. And since our show is Alpha Intuition, so how do you think that prayer strengthens a woman's intuition that we should always follow? And how is that explored in your book?
So when it comes to our intuition, there's a verse that says there's a way that seems right unto man, but in the end leads to death, right? And sometimes I think we have to, that's why it's important to me that we are lorded by the Most High, because our intuition can sometimes, or what we'll call intuition, sometimes is our traumas and our fears and our ways of trying to cope, right? But the alpha intuition that we're talking about is where it's coming from a space of truth and teaching and guidance. And
Mhm.
so to me that comes from that the spirit of the Lord just helping in the grace of the Lord to lead and to tell you something. And the way that I talk about that I talk about this in the book because there there are many stories that I actually share in the book where I was very humbled by certain circumstances. And it was because of me having to understand that God's leading had to come in and I needed to listen. That
Mhm.
was the way I was getting it out because sometimes our intuition will tell us something, but we want to ignore it. And we call it ignoring the red flags.
Mhm.
But really, we're not ignoring our red flags or the red flags. We're ignoring our intuition that God gave us to teach us, to lead us, to guide us, and to make wiser decisions, wise choices. So that is how that plays out. It's like I have plenty of examples in the book about how the Lord had to teach me and give me some direction.
Let me ask this question. Do you explore any avenues in your book that discuss power of prayer and how it affects you in a working environment?
So actually, that was very huge. It was that I had to, I prayed over my business. That I couldn't start my day
Mhm.
without it.
Yes.
It was because, yeah, it was because I can't tell you how quickly God would answer prayers at my business just from going in. Just like before anybody would come in, everything was still closed. Or if I was just at home, I'm praying for my mind, I'm praying for my clients, I'm praying for my day, I'm praying for all of these things. Actually, I need to do better about it
Mhm.
even today. Because sometimes you could be in that grind mode and you're like, boom, that's my schedule, right? That's what I do. But God would immediately seem to respond. I remember I was looking to sell my business. And when I was like in my business, I was working on my first client. I had prayed that morning. And while I was working on my first client, a buyer came in. Nobody knew that this is what I was trying to do. This guy comes in and so I didn't, my other person wasn't in yet. So I had to go tend to him, talk to him. And I asked him, I said, you can come back at the end of the day. He said, but yes, I'm interested. He said, I'm sorry if this seems off key. He said, but I would love to buy your business. I love what you have here and what you've done. Can I buy it? I
Wow.
had just prayed. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. This is what I was trying to do. And that day, that night, I ain't gonna lie, we signed a deal. We signed a deal that night. I said,
Wow.
come back at 9:30. I'll be closed at 9 by 9, come at 9:30. So I know God can do it. That's why I be tripping and I get mad and frustrated with God sometimes when I'm like, how come you ain't do it as quick this time, God? I need you now.
Also, on his time, not ours. We don't always know what his timing is.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what I had to learn. That was another thing I had to learn that God will spoil you sometimes, but really he ain't spoiling you. He's working his purpose.
Well, because prayer does fix things. People don't realize that. It may not fix it when you want it to be fixed, but you also
Yeah.
you have to put in your part as well.
Yes, because that's the thing. He's also constructing this. He's constantly constructing this in
Mhm.
us, our hearts and our mind. And to me, the subconscious is basically the heart. You see in scripture where it's synonymous, the heart and the mind are synonymous in
Mhm.
many ways. And so to me, that's the subconscious because out of the issues of the out of the heart excuse me, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And
Mm-hmm.
so to me, it's out of the abundance of what's going on, building up in there, and we begin to speak automatically, right? Those default responses. Oh, Jesus, I'm going to praise right now.
That's why you have to sometimes
Yeah.
let people talk because they'll tell on themselves because what they have inside is going to come out.
And that's good in business. That's good in
Everything.
relationships. It's good in friendships. Yes, you hit the nail on the head, Keisha. Yeah.
All right. So my last question for you here. Well, first of all, before I ask you my last question, I want you to tell us about um, where you have your coaching business now, and
Mhm.
briefly tell us about what your second book is about and when it's going to be released.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So right now I'm only doing consulting by phone. That is it. That is it. Because I'm traveling right now. I'm in different places. So I'm not in Arizona right now. And then I'll be in Costa Rica by the end of this month and I'll be out there for a while. And I'm in Kansas at the moment. So only by phone. And you can contact me actually if actually you can hit me through my handle that's up there at Essence Yarbrough on Instagram, or you can, if you want, I guess Keisha, you could put it in the, in the description, but I can give a number. It's a text line where you can text me if you
What's the
want
number?
assistance. 602-327-7316.
Okay. And then you
And
want
that
me to,
and
I'm doing this real time, girl. So then you said, and what
mhm,
is the name of your business?
mental core consulting. And as far as the book, The Sunny Day Mentality is, whew, it's the 10 key formula to take you from suffering to sufficiency. It will be coming out. Well, I don't want to talk about that yet. I don't want to put any dates out exactly yet. So be on the lookout for that. You can follow me at Essence Yarbrough on Instagram. So that is it, literally my story of overcoming, bipolar depression and helping people with depression or bipolar depression, giving them 10 key formula that they all it's literally a formula that they intuitively already have within them. People who are suffering from these conditions that they can use from right where they are in order to overcome and gain victory over those conditions. And that is what the book is about. It's describing breaking those things down, tells my story, and also gives some resources that really encouraged me through my process of healing. And so, yeah, and that's where people can find any updates. Essence Yarbrough on my Instagram.
Let's notice where I did something wrong. Let me see how this one looks.
Yeah,
Yep, there we go.
yeah, yeah. That's it. That is it. And so, when it comes to it, what's interesting is that people, especially within the Black community, we do still have a lot of mental health stigmas. Um, and in the church, like I said, what people struggle with outside of the church, people are struggling with inside the church.
Hmm.
And we'll have all the salvation and all of that, but then we are still not knowing exactly how to apply the word of God to our mental health. I didn't know how. And that was one of my complaints with God. I was like, God, if I'm a believer, how come I'm still going through this? How come I'm still struggling with my mental health? And I didn't realize how many people struggle with it. I mean, it's millions upon millions just in the US alone. And so I'm not alone when I tell you, I mean, you're not alone when I tell you it's not just you. It was me too. And it's there are answers, and the science backs up what scripture has been saying all along. And this is what I'm just finding out because I didn't have the science back then. You know, there weren't all these tools on YouTube at the time when I was going through that. Matter of fact, there was no YouTube for most of it. I had to go through years of failure, with medications and therapy and trying to learn life skills. And so yeah, so it will be out. Just they have to stay updated in order to get that book, The Sunny Day Mentality, 10 Key Formula from Suffering to Sufficiency. It's going to be a blessing to a lot of people when
Say
it
that
comes to
name
the
again.
counseling.
I'm sorry. Say that name
Huh?
again. You said the name of the book is going to be called. Say that name again.
The the sunny day mentality, the 10 key formula from suffering to sufficiency.
The 10 key formula from
Mhm.
suffering to sufficiency.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, mental suffering to sufficiency.
Mental
I'm still
suffering to sufficiency. Nice. I like
it
it. Okay.
ain't
All right.
yes,
All
yes.
right. So my last
So
question I have for you is, what advice do you have for? I was going to say women, but I'm going to say people. What advice do you have for
yeah.
people who struggle to find time to focus on their prayer life when they're navigating their daily life?
To be honest with you, what I've learned is that people are just afraid to pray because they have learned a sense of learned helplessness. So they feel
Mm,
like God ain't going because our prayer life actually, our conversations go to with God actually connect with our conversations about our belief systems about ourselves. If people have let you down all the time, I could pray, but God ain't gonna listen. Or I could pray, but he just do what he want to do. Right. So that's how we think with people. I could ask them to help me. I could ask them to do that. I could, tell them how I feel, but they don't really care. It starts with our perception of self, our perception of others. And, we have these cognitive distortions that get
mm,
in the way. Basically, we just have these jacked up thoughts that came from how we were raised and all that good stuff. Anyway, long story short, you really just say, I'm just going to do it. It's the action. It's
mm-hmm.
the action. Fault is to not do it. The conscious action is to do it, like God said to me. So just do it. Like Nike, you got to just do it. You
That's
just
right.
start praying. And then it might not even feel authentic at first, but then you're going to start singing like a canary to God.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to say, I did this all the time. So, you just start and then he gonna eventually help you break through that wall and you're gonna be like, now you see me through this wall you built up.
Absolutely.
you know, that's how I encourage people. Just start. Your subconscious response is to not do it, but you can be conscious to say I'm gonna do it.
That's with everything in life. You know what I mean? You have to be self-conscious about it. You have to be intentional about your
Intentional.
spiritual life, just like
Yeah.
you are every other aspect of your life. All right.
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
what is something that you want to leave our listeners with? What is something that you want, one final note, 60 seconds, you want to tell them? Let's talk about, let me ask you this question. Tell our listeners about how you use prayer to help you. Um, well, how prayer is used to help you with your intuition.
You know what, Lord, I put myself aside. I look at what you present to me. Whether it's the facts, I remove my emotion from this. My emotion, I submit to you. I Everything that I want to feel or anything I feel with people, places, things, circumstances, I submit it to you, God, right? And I just want you to come in and fill this vessel. Let me know, fill my mind with what it is I need to be doing. Let me get the correction I need to get, the direction I need to get, the people who you are sending in my life. Father, give me an ear to hear them. Give me an ear to hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. Give me the direction. Let me know where I'm wrong. Don't let me sit in the lies. That's where I go.
Yeah. That's understandable. And man, y'all heard it. I'm telling you, sometimes I thought we was about to start having prayer right here. Look, sometimes it just got to happen when two or more are gathered. We already know, right? So it's just like
Yes.
sometimes you have to be intentional. Not worry about what other people think or say because people are
Mhm.
always going to think and feel what they want to.
Mhm.
And ultimately, you have to understand that what other people think about you ain't none of your business. Let them have their thoughts and do what they do and think what they think. And ultimately, you have to understand that what you think and what you want to do for your life is ultimately your decision. You're the one going to have to live with those consequences, whether you decide that it's a job that you want to take, whether it's a person that you want to be with, whatever the case may be. You can take other people's ideas and consideration or other people's ideas about what you should do with your life into consideration. But ultimately, when you make that decision, it's not going to affect them. It's only going to affect you.
Yes.
So think about
You.
what you want to do and just make sure that you include God and or whoever your higher power is, whatever guides you to be the person that you are, you have to make sure that what you feel inside, because you know that core, when we get that anxiety, to me, that's my intuition. So when you have those intuitive moments, it's telling you, you know what you need to do, and you go against that, and you want to call it a red flag, whatever the case may be. Ultimately, you knew you were making a bad decision when you did it. So always consult God first and make sure that you put him at the forefront.
Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, well, I'm gonna say this has been a powerful episode. So I'm gonna say thank you
Yes.
so much for allowing me to interview you so that we can say once again, I'm gonna put this book up here. All right, guys, this was the first book. When did this book come out, Essence?
That
What
came
year
out
was
in
this?
2014?
Yeah,
2014.
in February of
Mm-hmm.
2014, Wisdom in Red. So she's getting ready to release her second book. Title again for me is
The Sunny Day Mentality, the 10 Key Formula from Mental Suffering to Sufficiency.
All right, so you
The
guys get ready
Sunny
to go
Day
get both those
Mentality.
books. This one, I bought my copy off Amazon, so I already put some dollars in her pocket. But y'all go ahead and make sure that you go and look at this book because it is a very good book. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed our show today. Thank y'all for rocking with me because I know we talked about before how I was switching lanes and I was going to start talking about different topics because in order for us to be successful in one area of our life, in order for us to be the CEO of our lives, we have to make sure that we have to focus on all aspects of our life, not just the corporate space, not just the relationship space or the spiritual space, but in everything combined. So we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different topics on this show. I know my guys, like I said, I tried to help y'all crack the crazy girl code. I hope I did well on them first 21 episodes, but it's a lot of other stuff out here that you guys need to do to maintain your life balance. So coming from Keisha L. Blair, because the L is very important, number one life balancing code. So I just want you guys to know that I appreciate y'all rocking with me, appreciate y'all support. And if you enjoyed today's show, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave us a comment or review down below. All right. And if you want to connect with us on social media, I'm gonna put our names up here again. You guys y'all already know I'm Keisha the Electrician. You can also find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook at Keisha L. Blair. But either way, I'm gonna come up somehow, some way. Y'all can see this big old KB on my chest. Keisha the Electrician, KB, that's me. You can also find Essence at Essence Yarbrough on Instagram or at
Well,
Mental
when they go there. Yeah, well, no, at Essence Yarbrough, because if they go on there, they can just go to everything.
Okay. So at Essence Yarbrough on IG, and that way you guys can find her. And you already know this girl's good at reflexology. She's mind wellness coach. So y'all better go rock with Essence so she can help get y'all mind right. Because you know most of y'all need it.
Yeah,
But
it's
as I always say, you guys have to understand, you already know that whatever you decide to do, whatever mountain you decide to climb, whether it's a spiritual mountain, a corporate mountain, or a personal mountain, the journey to the top of any mountain begins with one single step. So don't stop, keep climbing. And thank you guys so much for joining in to another episode of Alpha Intuition Podcast. And until next time, y'all already know what to do. Peace.